Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Let me pull up my comments so that I see who's jumping on here tonight to maybe ask me some questions. Also going to be pulling up my Facebook group because sometimes I don't see the comments on the platform I'm using, the StreamYard platform. So I always like to pull up my Facebook group just to see if I'm missing anything. Yes, so here we are. Hello, everybody. I see that people are starting to pop in. Please say hi in the comments. Give me a wave. Say hello. Let me know who's here, and I can say hi and welcome you. So welcome everybody for another live stream, for another Thursday live stream. Oh, hey Deborah, how are you? Facebook user. Let me go in my comments. Say hi. Let's see, because I can see. Oh, hey, Kimberly's here. Martha is here. Hello, guys. Good to see you. Denise, hello. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm just going to keep my phone up here so that I can see the comments pop in. So welcome to another Thursday live stream. I'm really excited about this because I'm curious to see what kind of questions you have for me that I can hopefully answer in a helpful way with actionable steps for you to help you. So for those who are new, I know our group is growing. I would like to introduce myself quickly. My name is Cordula. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, and I support women with autoimmune disease to heal their gut and to teach them how to nourish themselves to heal their gut and to reduce the inflammation and to increase their energy and to really create that sustainable, joyful life that we all deserve. So this is what I do, and I am the founder of this wonderful community, of this wonderful group, and I'm also the founder of the Holistic Gut Solution Academy. So welcome everybody. Tonight I chose to engage with you to have a little bit back and forth instead of me just teaching something. And that is why I chose to do a Q&A tonight. So the way we do it is I'm just going to ask you to pop any questions that you might have for me in the comments, and I can then answer those questions. If there's no questions that you can think of right now, it's not a big deal because I have some questions prepared that that I'm being asked very frequently, and I'm sure that would be very helpful for you to get answers to as well. Okay, so Daniela, hi Daniela, nice to see you here. All right. Well, if there's any questions from you guys, please feel free to pop them in the comments. Anything goes, nutrition, food, lifestyle, supplements, anything. What I can do is, because actually I received a question prior to me going live for a group member who can't come tonight. So I am going to just answer that question first, and maybe that'll spark some ideas as well. All right. So the group member that that can come tonight asked me about remission. So and I get that a lot. People ask me how the heck can I get into remission, and what actually is remission. And I think that is such a really good question, because when you think about remission, I want you to ask yourself first, what is remission for you? How do you define remission for yourself? Because it means something different for all of us. So just to give you an example, remission, for some people, remission means that you are very focused on bringing down your antibodies in your body. So this is your goal, antibodies down in your system, and then you put certain steps into place in order to reduce your antibodies. And what you do is you then monitor the antibody levels by regular testing and monitoring it. And once you see that the antibodies are coming down, then you are seeing for yourself that you're getting into remission. And some even say only when those antibodies are within the normal range, then they consider themselves in remission. That is how some people approach it. And by the way, there's no judgment here, because really it is up to you on how you decide for yourself what remission means for you personally. But you have to make that distinction, because that is what drives you, and this is what you have to that's your goal setting, right? And I see people who get too hung up on the numbers, which actually stresses them out. And then when they see that the numbers are not coming down quickly enough, they are actually becoming stressed, and then they are adding to inflammation because of it. And they're thinking they're doing something wrong, and then hopping off the wagon instead of just keep, moving forward with one step. So regardless, for some, it's really motivating to see when they're seeing those antibody levels coming down, and then that drives them, and they see results, and they say, "Oh, I'm on the right track." But if you find that for you personally, remission is when you're starting to see that your symptoms are starting to fade away, that they come down, that you don't feel fatigued anymore, that your brain fog is lifting, that your joint and muscle pains are starting to become better, that you are not constipated anymore. When you see those physical changes in your body, for some, this is remission. For some, this is being on the way to remission. And this is what they want for themselves. And they're not interested in the antibody numbers, because for those people, what matters is how they feel. And that is totally fine as well, because for you, you have to decide for you personally what is remission for you, right? There's no standard test or a standard idea behind what specifically remission is. So for me personally, just to give you a quick idea, is that in the beginning, like all of us with Hashimoto's, we get our antibodies tested, because that is one of the tests that defines whether you have Hashimoto's or not. So for me personally, my antibodies were in the thousands. So my antibodies were sky high. Um, so that just confirmed the level of inflammation that I was feeling, because I was feeling like a zombie. I was feeling very, very badly. And so then I started to, take action and put motion into place. And, many years later, I started to feel better. I started to feel, oh, wow, my brain fog is coming down, and all of that. And so for me personally, I started to feel, oh, wow, I'm really getting better. I'm starting to get into remission. And then I decided, you know what? I really want to see where my antibodies level are at. But that was many years later. And when I did that, I noticed that, well, the test came back and I was 50% down. 50% was still not, in literally, well, in remission per se, because I didn't hit the, normal levels yet. But for me personally, I felt so much better that I knew for me that was remission. Anyways, I hope that makes sense, and I hope that that answers the question of one of the group members who can't be here today. Okay, so let's go into the chat and see what we have for questions. How to take pro and prebiotics effectively? Nice question. Very good. Okay, so I'm guessing that you're talking about supplementation, not food, correct? Let me just know in the comments if that is what you're talking about, because there's a distinction between supplementation and food. So if you're talking about supplementation, probiotics are synthetic, or synthetic, supplementation that is added, that is providing your body with bacteria, with strains of bacteria, to really, we talked about that last week, dysbiosis, to really help your gut to function properly, and to try to bring balance back into your system. So probiotics are very sensitive to stomach acid. And so my suggestion is always, if you're taking your probiotics, I prefer to take them on an empty stomach, because on an empty stomach, you know that stomach acid is low because you're not eating. Stomach acid thereby is not being introduced to your stomach. And so the chances of those bacteria actually getting into your intestinal system are much greater than having them with your meals. That might reduce the amount of bacteria that actually make it into your gut. So that is always my suggestion. I also like to take them overnight, just because same idea is that digestion is at its lowest and the probiotics can really do what they're supposed to be doing. Prebiotics is, I don't like to take prebiotics, synthetic prebiotics. There is a ton of prebiotic food out there that'll nourish your microbiome, because prebiotics are really is food for your microbiome. Prebiotics are feeding the good bacteria, and there's an abundance of food out there that can do that for you. So I don't like to suggest to take synthetic prebiotics. I hope that answers your question. What do you advise for missing period? Or what should I say to my doctors, especially I refuse the birth control? Oh my goodness, yes, such a big topic. And so I can hold a full lecture on missing periods. And the thing with missing periods is that there's different reasons for everybody, but the the silver lining, or what everybody has in common with missing periods, is that there is a severe hormonal imbalance. When I say hormonal imbalance, that can be, so when I say hormonal imbalance, that is usually the balance between progesterone and estrogen, right? For some, that might be that you are estrogen dominant. You have too much estrogen in your body for various reasons, which then brings the progesterone estrogen balance out of balance. Or what you can also have is you can have low progesterone and you can have low estrogen at the same time, which then needs to be boosted, progesterone as well as estrogen. So see, the difference is that there's so many different imbalances that can happen. So my suggestion would be to go to your doctor and specifically ask for a hormone test. And the best one I can recommend is the Dutch test. Okay, so the Dutch test. So that is DUTCH. It's a dried urine test. And the dried urine test tests all of your hormones. It's a very comprehensive test that tests the levels, that tests the balance of each hormone: estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, then how estrogen breaks down in your body. There's different ways of how estrogen breaks down in your body. And then thereby you'll see if your estrogen is maybe not being excreted enough. Because if you have like a liver issue with excretion of estrogen, then you might want to work on your liver to get rid of the estrogen that is not leaving your body. Okay, so that would be my first goal, to get the Dutch test and then see where those imbalances lie. And then you can be very specific in supplementing and therapeutic foods and all of it. And yes, please do not take the birth control pill, by all means. And I know it's hard to stand up for yourself sometimes when you go see the doctors. Don't blame them, because that is what they learned in medical school, is to give you treatment. And the first treatment for birth control is for missing periods is birth control. Trust me, I was on the birth control for over 15, 16 years. And I never had a period ever. I went to the doctor at 16 because I knew intuitively something was wrong, and they put me on the birth control until I was 27. And the birth control, not only does it screw up your own hormone production, because you're not ovulating on it at all. So you're not ovulating. It's just a enforced bleeding. And at the same time, the birth control pill is just sucking the nutrients out of your body, especially zinc and B vitamins. So when you're coming off of the birth control, your body is extremely deprived of nutrients that can then also affect your Hashimoto's or any other autoimmune condition. I hope that answers your question. So that would be my first line of approach. Next question is, any specific gut health tests to look for or test? So I do see the value of certain gut health tests. I specifically like stool tests because they can give you a really good overview of the microbiome of gut bacteria in your body. They have a place, but and I know that functional doctors love them because it gives them something to work with, right? Which is not a bad thing. However, you have to keep in mind that it's such a new topic, and there's no tests on the market right now that are scientifically proven or all encompassing. There is so much happening in our gut. There's so many trillions of different bacteria, and the microbiome is so diverse that they can really only test a certain amount of specific strains that they're very familiar with right now. So it doesn't really give you a comprehensive picture of what is going on in your gut per se. Um, so I personally, to tell you the truth, I've never had a stool test done yet because um, for me, I am very much interested in how my body feels, how my symptoms are. I had severe digestive issues, constipated, by I don't know, for days. If I was going frequently, I would go every 3 days. And so just by doing the work with understanding how digestion, absorption, nutrients work in my body, along with specific supplementation to fill the gap, along with lifestyle approaches, stress management routines, and getting my sleep in a really good place, and all of that combined, I could tell that my gut was recovering. I was starting to go regularly. The bloating disappeared. I didn't bloat anymore. I had no stomach pain and all of it. So I didn't really spend that money on those tests. However, if there's certain reasons why, that's certainly something you can discuss with your functional doctor and then get a test done to get some specifics. Absolutely. What about taking CBD water soluble for pain rather than taking medication such as Tylenol? Yes, absolutely. I agree with it. I'm a big fan of it. There is so much positive studies coming out on CBD. It's especially around pain management, and it is a more natural way for the body to deal with some sort of pain management. So absolutely, much preferred than Tylenol, because Tylenol is, even though it's such an easy thing that you can get over the counter, there is so much damage if you take it constantly, often, repeatedly. Tylenol can cause intestinal bleeding. It is very, very harsh on our digestive system, and it also does affect our microbiome tremendously. So those are things that are not being talked about a lot, but Tylenol is definitely something that can actually increase your inflammation that way, because it has the ability to really cause harm if taken in large amounts or frequently, on your intestinal lining. It can really cause damage there. So absolutely. How to take probiotics effectively. I think I answered that question earlier. Let me see where I said, probiotics are very sensitive to stomach acid. So my suggestion when we're talking about synthetic probiotics is always to take it on an empty stomach or not with food, just to make sure that it goes all the way down into your intestinal system where they are supposed to be going. There's also certain supplementation that actually have some sort of biofilm around them just to protect the bacteria and the strains a little bit more as they travel through your digestive tract into your intestine, where they actually work. Okay, lots of good question coming in, guys. Very good. Let me know if there's any more. I hope these answers were resonating with you and were helpful for you right now. I actually do have one more question that I took note of because that is a very, very frequent question that comes up as well, and that is, why is gluten bad for me? So there's always this big gluten question that comes up every single time when I talk to women and clients. And there's a lot of misconception around gluten. And let me just give you the ins and outs a little bit on gluten so you understand why gluten is such a hot topic. And let me know in the comments if that makes sense to you. So, in order to understand gluten and why we are being advised by many health gurus to stay away from gluten, is because gluten is a protein. Gluten is the enemy. Yes and no. Yes and no. So I'll let you know why, and you let me know, what you think. So gluten per se is not the villain. So gluten is a protein, and gluten is actually it consists of two different proteins, which is gliadin and glutenin. And many years ago, 50 to 100 years ago, the gluten that was in whole wheat looked very, very different from the gluten that we are seeing in North America right now. That was before GMO crop was introduced. Gluten was, from a genetic standpoint, a very different crop than it is now. Gluten per se is a protein that is very large. So it gives the texture, that gives this the stretchy texture, the chewy texture, and that is partly because the protein molecules are really, really large. So when we eat gluten, every single time we eat gluten, just by default, because of the large size of the molecule, it damages your gut lining every single time. Now, mind you, that is not a bad thing if you're able to repair. And it's interesting because the gut lining repairs very frequently for a good reason. And that's one of the reasons why, because there's so much friction and damage being done. So it repairs every 3 to 4 days, cells repair in your gut. So even if you have gluten, or let's say 50 years ago, when it was not genetically modified, you ate the gluten, it would damage your gut lining. But if you have a healthy gut lining, it would then repair itself and you would have no issues. The issues arise because nowadays the gluten is genetically modified, which means, for number one, your body isn't in tune with what's coming in. So your body sees that molecule and it can't define it. It can't see it as something natural. It's not some man-made, and your body starts to react to it, right? So there's always a little bit of inflammatory process going on. At the same time, the protein is damaging your gut lining, and that in combination can cause really big damage on your intestinal lining, which then can cause those, those proteins to enter your bloodstream, which can then create a whole inflammatory process. So see the difference, and especially if we eat gluten over and over and over again, multiple times a day, which we have evolved to, which wasn't the case 50, 100 years ago. We wouldn't be eating bread all day. There was a lot of, whole foods involved. And if we did have some gluten, it wouldn't damage us as much. However, nowadays there's gluten in everything. So everything that you eat that has gluten in it is damaging your gut lining. And then the crop itself has been modified, which causes a little bit of inflammation and thereby can cause like so much inflammation in your intestinal tract. However, if your gut is in a really good place, if you're repairing and restoring your gut, um, I see people eat gluten every once in a while without having issues. So, especially when I talk to my friends in Europe, and just so you know that the GMO crop in Europe, the whole wheat crop in Europe was banned many, many years ago. So the GMO, there's no GMO wheat in Europe, or there shouldn't be anyways. Whereas here in North America, it's almost all of it is GMO. So that is the whole gluten lowdown on how it all comes together. So I personally stay away from gluten, of course, because of what I just said. However, when I go visit my family in Europe and Germany, and when we traveled to Italy a few years ago, I was happily eating my pizza, and I was happily eating the bread that my aunt made with whole wheat, and I was fine. So it's not the villain per se. It's what we have made out of it, really. Um, okay, so any other questions? I see that Sylvia has joined us. Hey, Sylvia, it's nice to see you here as well. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Any more questions before we call it a night? It is 7:28. I don't want to hold you any longer. Let me see. Yeah, I don't have any more questions noted down. And if there's no more questions from you guys, I thank you so much for coming on tonight. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for posting those questions. They were awesome. And in case I don't see you anymore before the weekend, I really hope that you guys have a wonderful Easter weekend and Easter holidays. Before you enjoy your time with friends and family, and try to relax and just enjoy the time together. All right, guys, I hope that you have a good night, and I will see you again really soon.